the robot train path, which will be from west to east, from Frackville over to Lancaster. So the intended route will be shown here. We start in Frackville, go up over to Gerardville, down the Big Mine Run, to the main line into Ashland, over to Shamokin, and we come up here to Lancaster. It's actually going to be, the robot's actually going to be done as a loop, which will go back and around the rest of the track and go back where it started from. But okay, this is the intended way we want the robot to run. What we're going to do, though, is we're going to put some trains on some of the paths in Gerardville and in Ashland, so the alternate routing will have to be taken by the robot automatically without dispatcher input. Screen into simulator mode so we can diddle the sensors and so forth. And what we're going to do is we're going to put activate as though there were locomotives on Gerardville, Maine, on the Gerardville Frackville connector, and on the Ashland, Maine. Our intention now will be that when we run the robot train from Frackville to Lancaster, we'll have to automatically detect as it runs that it needs to take the alternate path through Gerardville and the alternate path through Ashland and get over to Lancaster. We'll run it a second time after the switch is already thrown to show how it still has to go through, read the signals, and make sure that it has permission to go into this alternate route through the algorithms that we have created for the robot train. And we do that. By okay, so now we see in the script output that the train, which is going to be 5574, a CSX diesel, that will start up, and it will enter the first block and ask us to enter occupancy. We'll be moving it at 15% of throttle, which is scaled to be approximately 15 miles an hour. And the train will be somewhere on this track, and we'll move to the first block, which would be block 8. And so we hit block 8, and then the first thing it does is it says we have to do a stop at the station in Frackville for 20 seconds to take on passengers and cargo and set out passengers and cargo. So when that's done, it'll be ready to move forward. Now you'll notice that if it's going to move into this next block, that we have a permitting signal. Okay, so what it's doing is it said, okay, now it's on the move again. It's gearing up. It's going in the forward direction. It reserves. It sees that the next block is available, that no one moved into it, so it's going to put a reservation on that before it actually moves into the block. And then it will continue to train at 15 a mile an hour into that, and it basically says it didn't have to take a bypass. We'll get into that later, what that's all about. But basically it enters a block, which is an entry block to a runaround, right? So you can go this way, or you can go around through the alternate route through Gerardville. And that's indicated by an entry block. The block number is 7, as we said before. That was reserved. We're now in the execution of that block. We've stopped at the signal, not stopped at the signal, I'm sorry, because it's yellow, not red. And you can see the yellow there. It's a little hard to see at the scale, perhaps. Now the train is continuing to run to 15 miles an hour until it gets into that block. Now when I do the same run on the real platform and train layout in the other room, you'll see that there's not enough time to do a lot of this discussion. It kind of moves along. Okay, oops, come on. Okay, so now you see that the signal to move forward into the path up here is red. It's also what was red to come in here. It went through the logic that said, oh, I'm at an entry portal. I want to go this way up to the main line, but I can't because the track is occupied. So he threw the switch, and he's waiting for me now to go forward into the alternate path into Ashley. A lot of this other detail we won't spend time on right now. But basically, then the train will move into this block. There you go. And now you'll see it takes a certain amount of time. And we have it set to run for, what is that thing? Okay, let's see. Anyhow, it has a train running into that block until it hits the red signal over here. Because we can't jump now, you see. It just determined that it was in the exit part of a runaround, and therefore it had to turn that turnout also to be able to go forward. So it did that, and then it set the indicator that I can proceed forward into. I can proceed forward into at 15 mile an hour into block 13, which is this block right here, Big Blind Run. Okay, so there's a lot of noise in the sample. I tried to reduce how much is on here, and I'll probably put that up on the website so you can scrutinize that output. I have a more debug-oriented one else, which just puts out a lot more lines of output, but allows you to see what's going on with the debugging. In any event, so we'll move into block 13, okay? And it basically will do its calculation. It will say that this is also an entry block, okay? He's an entry block into this pair of runaround tracks, the main line and the alternate. We're basically looking to go forward through a smaller block separating the 13 from this other main line track. And so we have to go in there. So basically it's saying, okay, proceed at 24 mile an hour to this track, number 12. Okay, and you notice that he was pretty quick. It had thrown the switch, but now it shows that the signal is yellow, and we can proceed into this bypass track. Just as we proceed into the bypass track up here in Girardeau. So it's going to proceed into the bypass track, and it's yellow because this one hasn't been thrown. This turnout hasn't been thrown out here, and it's red for this line coming in here. So he cascades back to the yellow. So we can proceed at restricted speed the way the algorithm is written. If it's yellow, it proceeds at it proceeds at the restricted speed, which is 12 mile an hour, into this alternate track. Then he'll move down into this alternate track, and then he'll determine, after he gets down there, there's a timer, how much, we're trying to scale the locomotives to run reasonably close to the speed that we set the throttle to. Takes a lot of messing around. But in any event, now you see that we got down about this far into the sideline here. He looked ahead at the track turnout, and he saw that it was the other way, and he saw that this was an exit portal on a runaround, and therefore he could see that he could reserve the track here, and so he could reserve that, and then he could basically move forward. So he threw his switch, and now the turnout is in the thrown position, or the reverse, however you like to call it, and we'll proceed into block 40. Now, of course, when we're running the train in the other room, as the train moves out, it's not this long. These will basically get turned off when the caboose with the sensors in the axles goes past the block. It'll reset and remove the reservation and so forth. but basically this will be trailing sort of like this. And then I'll move into the next. This says move into the next spot, which is 39, Uniontown Gap. You'll notice that here I was resetting my reservations. And so I move into here, and then I'm going to move into the final spot. And if I didn't have it run in loop mode, it would have actually stopped and released the locomotive and from the throttle and put it back into general availability service. Okay, so that's basically the way it works when it has to throw the switches. Now, the other case is after I get through here and I'm ready to otherwise stop, it's set, like I said, to go in a loop. So he now says, okay, keep running and come back around this way and come back into 8 and do it again. Of course, you'll notice I have this turnout. I'll turn the other way, and I really have to flip that because that's not part of this demonstration right now. It could have been, but it isn't there. Okay, so now we'll just suppose that the train came back around that loop and it finally hit the sensor and turned back on 8. So this time 8 again waits to stop at the station for 20 seconds. It had stopped at Lancaster for 20 seconds also. Okay, so now he's ready to go. There he goes. He said, okay, go forward into 7. He proceeds into 7. And now, even though the track is green to proceed, it won't proceed until it checks out because it really wants to go this way. The script says go that way, but we know we have a green this way, and again it checks now rather than having to force the switch to turn out to go into the closed position instead of the thrown position that it wants to go in. It says, oh, I can go forward. So it takes a little time to go through the algorithm to get there. You see when it's running in the other room, there's a little stall space before any of these runarounds. It's pretty quick going out the back end, the exit part of the runaround, but the entry takes a little more calculation and so forth, so the engine stops for a long time. I have an experiment with a faster CPU and all that kind of stuff to see if I can make things a little more, but you basically get the idea. Anyhow, so then it will continue along in the same fashion. It will go, and then it will take some time as it goes through there. It takes about 15 seconds or something to go over that piece of track. And then when it gets down close enough, it'll check here and say, oh, it's already been thrown. I can go ahead. I got a green signal. No problem. And again, you can go ahead to 13. So go ahead to 13 and proceed at 20 miles an hour. And that's the last time it was 15 because now we have a green signal, not a yellow. On this particular piece of track, we had 15 restricted, 20 normal. And that's because of the sharpness of curves and different things that I set into that little block of traffic that's about to come around. Other times we'll be running at 30 or 40 miles an hour. It depends. Again, it's a small layout. I wish I had the space to get some really nice, long, winding trains in the block, but that's the way it is. Okay, here we go. So then it goes. Anyhow, this will proceed and it'll do the same thing. So that's the idea. That's how the runaround works. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go in the other room and do this live for real. And I have some other videos that duplicate this, but I won't have the time to do a lot of discussion. If you have any questions on this, always contact me through my email. I'll be happy to answer any questions.